This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Lindsay Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, Lindsay Roberts, and you are listening to episode 136. Today, I am delighted to welcome back my friend, Lindsay Lucas. She is a national venue consultant and was in episode 109, where we went over how to start a wedding venue. And I've invited her back today and for the next 3 episodes because we are doing some 2-part episodes here, and I know you're going to love them. Now, really quickly, you might be hearing that Lindsay's a venue consultant. You know that I own a wedding venue, and maybe you're a wedding planner. Maybe you're a photographer or a calligrapher. Maybe you are any other variety of wedding professional, right? Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Stick with us. I think this episode will still be valuable to you. I think these 2-part episodes will still be valuable. Yes, we use venue-specific examples, but I say this in my chat with Lindsay, and I think actually Lindsay points it out, that these are still extremely valuable for anybody in the industry, and I believe that. So today we're talking about preparing your wedding venue for engagement season during wedding season. That's something that we have to do because engagement season is going to start for most of us in November, and it will be quickly followed by booking season. And fortunately for us, we have a very cyclical year for us as wedding professionals. We have the busy season, the busy wedding season, then we have engagement season, then we have booking season. But, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time between our busy wedding season and when engagement season starts to prepare our marketing strategy, to prepare our business, to prepare our wedding venue. And so it's really important. Lindsay and I both think it's important for all of us to start preparing our wedding venue or preparing our wedding business for engagement season, and you're going to have to do it during wedding season. So we have come up with quite a few tips for you today, including, how to audit your business, how to prep your business for engagement season, how to come up with your marketing strategy, how to refresh your online presence, how to evaluate your current marketing strategy, and other things. So I know this episode will be helpful to you, and I'm interested to hear how you prepare for engagement season. If you want to give me some feedback about what you're doing that's working for you, that has been a huge help to your business, I'd love to hear it. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram. I am at She Creates Business, or send me an email, kinsey@shecreatesbusinesspodcast.com. There's a few resources that Lindsay and I mention in this episode. They are in the show notes. And let me just be very vulnerable and blunt here for a second. I recorded these episodes a little while ago, not too long ago, a month or 2, and I just did not re-listen to it before I published it. So I cannot remember which episodes the specific resources are supposed to be in that we remembered. To be totally candid, I truly just didn't have time to go back and listen to these episodes because they were over an hour long. And so we talk about a template for a review email and things like that. And what I'm going to do is just put them in the show notes of all of these. So here we go. This episode has a 2-part it's a 2-part episode. You're going to hear from me today on Tuesday, and then part 2 will be published on Thursday. If you're listening to this in the future, you can just check for part 1 and part 2 of how to prepare your wedding venue for engagement season during your busy wedding season. Without further ado, here we go. Let's go to the show with Lindsay Lucas. Lindsay, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I am excited to have you back. If you are new to the podcast, you may not recognize Lindsay Lucas's name, but she is a national venue consultant, and I had her on the show back on episode 109. That was 2018, and we did an episode on how to start a wedding venue. So if you are dreaming of starting a wedding venue, this exact episode that we're doing today is still a cool one to listen to, so come back to us for sure. But if you are like, ooh, I'm interested in how to start a wedding venue, so I'm not really needing exact tips about how to prepare for engagement season during wedding season, then episode 109 is for you. So take a listen there and then come back to this one because it'll be fun information anyway, and it'll kind of get you excited for owning your own venues someday. But as I mentioned, and as you can probably tell from the title of this show, we are talking specifically to our venue owner friends about how they can prepare their venue for engagement season, which happens the same time every year during wedding season. And Lindsay and I both thought this was an important topic because, of course, engagement season and booking season are when we, book all of our weddings. It's when we make all of our revenue for the most part. And, we need to prep for it during wedding season, which is another busy season for us. So we have a lot of tips for you today. And even if you're not a venue owner, stick with us because I guarantee you'll glean some information from this episode. Don't you think, Linz?
Oh, absolutely. I think this topic is perfect for really and truly all business owners because it's that classic problem of getting stuck on that hamster wheel that we all have a tendency to do as far as working in our business on those day-to-day tasks. And we tend to get caught up in that and not taking the time to work on our business. And so I'm really excited about this episode.
I agree. I feel like we've mentioned this before. We probably mentioned it in episode 109, but I think we've said it a lot on the podcast, is that we don't take time, even regardless of this topic, like engagement season versus wedding season and booking season. I feel like just in general, taking time to vision cast and forecast for your business and work on it, as you said, instead of in it, is just something that we could all be better about.
Absolutely. And it's hard, right?
Yeah,
like you have to be
hard.
really, really disciplined to say no to all of those tiny little daily tasks and even those like unforeseen tasks that pop up and you're like, oh, nope, I'm sorry. This is what I've dedicated today to. And you have to be like just really disciplined to stick with it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's dive right in. As I mentioned, we have a ton of tips and Lindsay and I are just going to kind of go back and forth and riff off of each other today. And Lindsay's worked with a lot of venue owners. I am a venue owner myself. So here we go. Let's do it. Let's jump in. What is kind of the first thing they should be doing to prepare for engagement season during wedding season?
Great. Well, I think that the first thing that we need to do is we need to protect this dedicated time that you're going to be setting aside to work on your business. And the quickest, easiest way to protect that time is to go ahead and set up an autoresponder. Just letting all of those brides, mothers of the brides, vendors, letting them know like, hey, I will be away from the office from this date to this date, but I look forward to getting back to you as soon as possible.
I agree. I think that having that autoresponder it helps couples, like your current couples especially. They're the main focus, right, during wedding season. So the current couples, their vendors, as Lindsay mentioned, their family, whoever's emailing you needs to know that you're here. You're just not in your inbox right at that second. So I think it's so valuable. And the other thing too is you're still going to get inquiries during wedding season and you want to get back to them as quickly as possible. So if you can put information in their hands and give them something to do during the time you're away from your inbox, well, that's perfect. And it's an autoresponder. And I know we have feelings about that and we can kind of go back and forth about that, but gosh, if you can be the first one to respond to an inquiry, I mean, all the better for you and for them, especially if you're putting good information in their hands.
Right. And, it's the perfect opportunity to, like you said, put that information in there, but also to highlight your venue as well. So in your autoresponder, I mean, we could probably have a whole nother episode on tips for autoresponders and whatnot, and email management. But, putting a link to a recent wedding feature or a recent blog post that you've done or showing off and having those little humble brags in there are a great way to just kind of nurture those inquiries as well.
Definitely. And one of the tools I've mentioned previously on the podcast that is really helpful with this too, and it looks super professional, is YStamp. It is a signature creator. It's really affordable. And YStamp actually has a lot of different variations of links you can put within your signature. So the link for ours at our venue is read our latest blog post. And our latest blog post, we were not super consistent, which you guys know, on our blog, but if I can send people to our website, then I'm happy to do that. You could even put a link to your about page. If you have a really solid about page that has a great video on it, that has good information for brides, you can say hi to us, get to know us a little bit more. Those are two good places on your website to send even current clients. It'll remind them why they love you, and future clients, if you can send them to a video, it helps you build that know, like, and trust factor while they're waiting for you to get back to them.
100%. So now we are protecting our time. We have that autoresponder set up, which gives us peace of mind to just like have tunnel vision and focus on our business. So what is tip number 2 to get started and dive in?
So the next thing you need to do once you're protecting your time, what you want to do is gather the information that's actually going to inform what you need to do or what your focus needs to be for the engagement/booking season. And of course, if you're a longtime listener of the show, you know I'm going to say this. You need to review your survey results. I did an episode about this, I don't know, maybe 5 or 7 episodes ago about how to, number 1, take a survey of your past couples, and then number 2, how to take action on those survey results, because we're not just taking it for fun and for our health. We want to take it for the health of our business, right? And it means implementing changes or continuing to focus on what we're doing well. So before we get into the prep, we need to review survey results, reviews, look at reviews on Google that we got this past year, on Facebook, on our paid directory sites. We need to look at those reviews and kind of say, okay, what is a common what are the common themes or theme of what we did in the past year that worked really well for us? Because those are the business topics that you're going to need to focus on as we go through the rest of these steps to prep your business for this really busy engagement season. So I'll give you an example. If you are just crushing your client experience and a lot of your reviews, a lot of your survey results are about how you made your couples feel amazing and feel special and that they had an amazing experience with you, then you need to focus on continuing to do that. And then I'll take it one step further. Is there anything that you can do better? Can you do better? I mean, can you serve them in an even deeper way? If you're providing really fun surprise gifts, here and there for clients, that's awesome. Could you take it a step further and provide them with, more planning tools? And I don't just mean like pretty planning checklists. I mean, we have one ourselves. Don't get me wrong, guys, definitely do that. But can you provide them with something else that is specific to your business that will really help them take it to the next level as a client and give them that peace of mind, give them that sense of organization so they know exactly what's going on with you? Because really that's what clients want. Confusion leads to animosity. So if we can give our clients that client experience that really makes their confusion disappear, then you're on the right track. So that's my tip for you to start. The first thing we need to do before we decide where to put our focus is review your surveys, review your reviews, talk to your couples and see where you went right, where you went wrong, and what you need to do in each section.
Absolutely. And, for those surveys, obviously we're all going to be hoping that we knock it out of the park, right? We get 5 stars on like absolutely every different section. Right. But honestly, like I have a tendency I hope I get a few 3 and 4 stars. Like I want to know like what area am I lacking in? Where can I improve? Give me that constructive criticism. And I think that sometimes we have a tendency as business owners to get a little defensive, and because our businesses are our babies. I get it. But also I think if you do receive some constructive criticism, can I talk today? Just kind of look at it as the gift that it is. You have this opportunity to improve and make your business better.
That's right. And I'll be a little bit vulnerable here. I think I mentioned this on the survey episode, but just so you guys know, like, oh no, they're on a podcast, so they probably don't have this. We totally do. I got it was negative feedback on my survey from one of our couples. And Lindsay knows this because I voxed her and I said, listen, I need some advice on this. I don't know if I should reply to it, and I feel like I did talk about this on that past podcast episode. But anyway, long story short is it was not positive. There are some things where I said, I'm not going to change my behavior in this specific scenario, like the couple is referring to, because that's just a business policy. But I definitely learned something. And I said to myself, okay, here's how I could have handled that better. She's totally right. My couple in this scenario, they're totally right. And going forward, I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm going to do better when I have to approach a situation that's similar in the future. So while it, it was a scratchy when I first got that result, I definitely learned something from it. And I'm grateful for that feedback that they gave me.
Yeah, you handled it really well too. I remember talking about that.
Well, thank you. It took me a while. I had to sit on that for a while. Oh, I should probably do a whole episode about that.
Yeah, that would actually be a really good one. And, that's one of the telltale signs of a mature business owner versus a novice business owner. We mature business owners have a tendency to realize and recognize, like, okay, this is an emotional decision. I need to take a step back and sleep on it a little bit before I respond and let my anger get the best of me. So good job. I commend you, friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Literally could not have done it without you. I probably would have flew off the handle. I'm kidding. I tried not to, guys. I try not to fly off the handle. Let's be real. Okay. I feel good about that one. Do you want to pop in anything else there, or do you want to move to the next one?
No, I'm good. I think let's keep on trucking forward. Cool. I think next on the list that I would like to talk about are contract audits. And I know you have a fantastic episode. I'm sorry, I'm calling you out. Do you happen to know which episode that is to reference? Wasn't it Paige that you had on?
Yeah, for sure. Paige Griffith. She is an attorney for creatives. She's amazing. And she was in episode 126 back in January of this year. If you're listening in real time, 2019, that's episode 126. And it's called How to Perform a Legal Audit on Your Wedding Business with Paige Griffith. It was smashing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was so good. I remember listening to it and thinking, oh my gosh, I need to do this, and this for this business, and I need to do this, and this for this contract. It was so good. But yes, taking the time to go through, and I know this is probably like, oh gosh, the parts of the business where we are just like, oh my gosh, I need a cocktail while I do this, because it is not fun. But auditing our contracts are so, so important, because so many things change throughout 1 year. I mean, oh my gosh, thinking back to this time just a year ago, so much has changed in my business. And so going back and thoroughly reading through our contracts, making sure that everything is obviously legally legit, like all of those. Maybe you had one bad experience with a bride taking advantage of a certain policy and procedure, or not abiding by that policy and procedure, which I think we're going to get to next on our list. But going in right after that experience and adding in some verbiage to your contract, maybe it wasn't quite as eloquent legalese as what it should be. And so going back through and taking one full glance, one thorough review, and making sure, number one, that the contract is up to par and rock solid, but then also going into your CRM and taking a look and making sure that that contract is formatted properly. There have been times where I thought that my contract was formatted properly, but then like a potential client will forward it to me because they have a question about a clause or something, and I'm looking at it from their point of view. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is completely out of alignment and looks terrible. So that's another aspect too. Number one, of course, we want to make sure that everything within our contract, all of those clauses, are legally sound and rock solid. But number two, taking a look at it in our CRM, which we'll get to that in a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think, and like Lindsay said, we'll get to this, but just one thing I wanted to mention with your contract audit, aside from listening to that episode with Paige Griffith, which I 100% recommend, it was truly step by step. At the beginning of the episode, she even tells you, here's all the things you need to gather before you do this audit. You need, all the paperwork, all the things. So, but anyway, one thing I wanted to mention as far as formatting, I think formatting is huge, because it goes back to helping your clients understand exactly what's coming and exactly what they're doing, because again, confusion breeds animosity. And if they're not confused, then good for them and good for you, right? Good for your business, good for your inbox, because they're not asking you as many questions, which is still okay. But anyway, what I wanted to say about your formatting is this, as if you haven't yet, set yourself up as a test account in your CRM system. And I'll go into this a little bit more in our CRM tip, but set yourself up as a test account and send yourself all of your contracts and all of your stuff, all of your client portal stuff, so that if you haven't yet, and do it every year, I do it twice a year, so that I can just make sure that things look normal. And that way, number one, if my couples have a question, I can easily tell them, click here, click there, go to the upper right-hand corner, because I know exactly what it looks like from their point of view. I feel like we miss this step sometimes and we don't take the time to do this. So if you want to make sure that things are formatted properly, set yourself up as a test client and send yourself everything and look at it the way a client would look at it, and get out of the CRM admin side.
100%. Such a good tip. I love that one. So, I mean, I don't really want to get into like the nitty gritty of what every contract should have and all of that, because Paige did such a good job. There's no way I could compare to Paige's episode on that aspect. But again, go back, listen to Paige's episode. What'd you say? 126? Is that right?
Exactly. 126.
Yeah. And then just take the time to do that. I do think that we should review our contract first, since that is the backbone of our business, obviously, before we do anything else. But then a nice transition from the contract is going to be those policies and procedures. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like these two kind of go hand in hand, and you might do one before the other. It's totally up to you, whatever feels like a good process. But for me, I would probably do my policy and procedure audit first, and then I would go do my contract audit, because I would take a look at all of my weddings for the year, and I would say, okay, this happened at this wedding and it happened 4 more times. What kind of policy and procedure can I create and insert into my contract to mitigate that from ever happening again? I'll give you an example. At our venue, we had some kind of fast and loose alcohol policies that resulted in some a few annoying things that happened at weddings. I mean, we all have alcohol issues. I don't know a venue that does it, but anyway, so we created new policies around that, and we have not experienced those issues ever since creating those new policies back at the end of 2017. So that is an example of looking at your policies and procedures and saying, what is super clear that I'm comfortable with, that we're definitely keeping? What are we definitely keeping but isn't not clear? How can I make this more clear? And it also, one thing I would recommend that you do when you do this policies and procedure audit is think back, or even go back into your inbox and look at all of the questions that your couples asked you during their engagement period while they were booked at your venue or with your business, and say, is there a policy and procedure that I can put into place and be very clear and upfront about that would mitigate these questions, right? Like help them help themselves. Is there an additional document you can put together? Do you have that information in your couples guide or what have you? If you don't, pop it in there. Lindsay has this great saying, being clear is being kind. And that is so true. It is the onus is on us as the business owner to be clear with our policies and to help them find that information. Don't just assume that they are, scanning their contract twice a week. Make sure they have it in multiple places. It's sort of like the marketing saying that it takes 7 brand touches for someone to recognize you. Don't be afraid to put information in 1, 2, 5, 7 places, because it's going to take that many times for them to see it.
Absolutely. And yeah, I love that saying, being clear is being kind. And I wish I could take credit for it, but it was actually my best friend, Michelle Caldwell with the Cotton Collective. I had her as a guest expert inside our venue community. And she was just talking about how to nurture and grow relationships with vendors. And she had this wonderful quotable that just rolled right off her tongue, being clear is being kind, which is so on brand for her because she's all about kindness. But I totally agree, and just to add a little added element to the policies and procedures, we all think of policies and procedures as in what needs to be added into our contract that is protecting our boundaries, protecting our investment, protecting our time, all of those things. It's an added layer of protection within our contract. But also what I like to do with my clients is you do have those PMPs that have that really strong legalese that flows nicely with your contract. But I also like to sit down, take those PMPs and rewrite them from a bride's perspective. Because what happens is a lot of times venues are giving tours and they are nervous to talk about their policies and procedures, or they are nervous to hand over a document with those policies and procedures written on them because they know that they're scary. They know that they're intimidating. So if we take that little extra effort to rewrite those policies and procedures in a bride-friendly manner, and what I mean by that is you're still getting your point across, but maybe you're just adding a little extra explanation and telling a story as to why this policy and procedure was put in place in the first place. And it's really because you have your client's best interest at heart, which is absolutely true. And so being clear is definitely being kind, and you can take you can approach it from several different angles here.
I like that a lot. I don't have anything to add to that. That was, yes.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I would like to challenge everyone. If you are a venue owner and you find that your policies and procedures make you a little nervous to talk about, rewrite them, not for your contract. Keep the ones in your contract the way that they are, but rewrite them for when you're talking to brides and you're talking to especially those potential brides that you're touring.
Challenge accepted. Oh, one thing I'll add to that too is that make sure you understand your own contract and that you can explain it, because at some point you're going to get a couple who has like a lawyer for a dad or a mom or whatever. And they're going to be like, what does this mean? What does this mean? So especially those you obviously get your P&Ps like last call, last song time and your alcohol policy and your what time you can have the venue, all of that. But do you really understand those like last sections of your contract? Like, I'm trying to think of the names. I'm going to get into my dipsato.
Force majeure.
Yes. Like, do you know what that means? Can you explain that really well to the couple? Or you might get someone in law school. I don't know. I'm just making this up. But truly, this is something that I had to really practice when I was in real estate, because I did not get it. Sometimes, like if a parent would ask me, I was like, I don't know. Like, what is dispute resolution, restoration, interference? You know what I mean? What does that mean to you? And what does that mean to your client? Indemnification. Do you know what that means? If you don't, you need to talk to your lawyer and get a really easy like elevator pitch about the explanation of those sections, so that when it happens to you and someone asks, you are able to say, well, that means blah, 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 blah.
Right. Absolutely. Such a good point. What's that saying? If you can't explain it easily, you don't know it well enough.
Correct.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember.
That sounds good. But
that's
exactly what I mean. So let's go with that.
It's so true, though. That's a great point for the contract. All right. You want to slide on into CRM?
Yeah.
Okay. So we kind of touched on this earlier, but going into your CRM system and doing a refresh, maybe not a complete overhaul, because, I mean, let's be honest, we are definitely in wedding season when we're doing this. So we want to take time, but we don't have ample amounts of time. So just doing a quick refresh, take a look at making sure that all of your paperwork and forms that are in your CRM already are the most up-to-date versions of those, making sure that the photos, if you have any photos attached to like your proposals and brochures, things like that, all of those photos are attracting the clients that you want to be attracting, maybe like today, but also in the future as well. So those are all fresh. Make sure your questionnaires are fresh. If there is any extra information that you realized, oh, I need to start asking our clients for this information, or I need to start asking for this information sooner than what I have been asking because it's taking them twice as long as what I expected to get this information back to me. So taking a look at everything, giving it a quick refresh of all of your forms, all of your questionnaires, all of your photos, making sure your contract that is uploaded is the most up-to-date contract with those updated policies and procedures that we just talked about. And then lastly, the very last thing that I like to work on is all of my workflows, because your workflows are going to bring in everything that I just mentioned that needed to be refreshed. You're going to be attaching questionnaires or attaching your proposals and brochures, and all of those emails that need to be updated as well. And so I take a look at all of the different workflows that I have, an inquiry workflow. So as soon as a bride submits that lead capture form, what is she getting back, going through that entire workflow, the onboarding process. So after she's signed our contract, paid the deposit, what are those next steps? Is my very first step asking her for yet another thing by sending a questionnaire, or am I giving her something happy, something to excite her about officially being a part of our venue's family and one of our clients? That is definitely a tip I want to give here, is that, we when we book a client, we are asking them to sign our contract. We are asking them to give a hefty deposit. And then as soon as they have done all of that, our very next move, I typically don't like for it to be asking for one more thing. And what I mean by that is asking for them to fill out this onboarding questionnaire. Instead, I like for the next step to be giving them something after they give us their deposit and have signed our contract. I like to give them a really happy and upbeat, excited email, maybe attach the bride guide with it that is basically their Bible for referencing. Here is how to get the best and the most out of your experience here with us. And then, of course, moving on through the workflow process is going to be your booked bride workflow, making sure that, again, you're creating that great experience all the way through the offboarding process. Kinsey, I know you have some strong feelings about the offboarding process, so I'll let you talk about that.
I do. I'm going to back up just a second because I want to give you guys just a few technical tips when it comes to your CRM, and then actually when the tip we first talked about your autoresponder and setting that up. So depending on your personal workflow in your business and how you like to respond to leads, I respond to leads. I don't have if let's say you're using Dubsado. Dubsado has an embeddable lead capture form that you can put in your website. So if you're using that, your autoresponder with the information in your quote autoresponder needs to be done in Dubsado. And I'm sure the same is true for HoneyBook. So that's not an autoresponder you would set up like in Google, for example, in your Gmail account. If you have those lead capture forms that are embedded from those CRMs, you want to set up that autoresponder information within those CRMs. Now, I use my Gmail suite to reply to my couples. I have a contact form through my Squarespace website. It feeds into my Gmail, and that's how I respond to couples. And that works for me. So my autoresponder is going to be set up directly from Gmail. So here's the tip. If you are like me, and that's how you are getting brides or couples contact information or getting leads is through that contact form in Squarespace, Wix, whatever it is. What you need to do is this. If you set up an autoresponder in Gmail, it's not going to send to a person who submits a contact form through Squarespace or Wix or whatever. It only sends to people who actually type in your email address, hello@vistaviewevents.com. So what you can do is create a Zap in Zapier for that and say every time a contact form is submitted through my Squarespace website, send this email from Gmail. And that's how you get your autoresponder sent out. So it's, 6 one way, half dozen the other. It's totally up to you how you do it. But I just wanted that to be super clear because autoresponders can happen in a few different ways. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on really quickly, Lindsay already mentioned it too, but I just wanted to say that if you have gone through a rebrand, if you've changed your logo, if you've changed the colors of your business, you need to hop into your CRM as well. In addition to your photos, you need to make sure that your colors and all of your logos are changed. We have our logo on all of our contract documents. And so I had to hop in there and change all of our logos because we did go through a rebrand this year. And I hopped into our client portal and changed the hex codes and all of that. So in addition to photos, change that stuff too if you need to.
Oh, such a good point. If you have gone through a rebrand recently, God bless you. I wish I could send you a drink because, oh man, I just recently went through it and there's so much that goes into it that we don't think about it. So many details.
That's right. There's so much. And we'll get into it. We're doing like our next section is refreshing your online presence, and that'll kind of tie in there too. But okay, so offboarding. I do feel really strongly about offboarding your clients. I feel strongly about it from the client's perspective and from your perspective. So when you offboard a client for your venue, here's something you can do. Make it your own, operate through your own lens and what feels good for your business. But you should definitely be sending your clients a wrap up thank you email to say, hi, Kinsey and Sam, we loved having you at Vista View Events. Thank you so much. It was beautiful. Everything was wonderful. If you have any questions, let me know. Let them know when they're going to get their damage deposit back. Again, being clear is being kind. I always let them know, hey, your damage deposit is on the way, whether I mail it or I just refund it through Stripe. And I say, if I mail it, I say I'm sending it on the mail on whatever day. Or if I refund it through Stripe, I let them know it's going to be back on the same card you paid it with in 5 to 10 business days through our payment processor. And then ask for a review. We should all be asking for reviews. And Lindsay and I both feel strongly about this. We really recommend that you ask for reviews on Google because you own those reviews and not on sites that you don't own, like paid directories. Again, that's up to you. Depends on where you get most of your business. Just know that if you have amazing reviews on paid directories, big ones, and for some reason your profile goes away, bye-bye to all of those reviews.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
We'll do an episode on that.
I was going to say, can I invite myself back to do an episode on this?
Yes, you don't have to invite yourself. I just did. But yeah, so ask for those reviews. And then I also think I think an email is great. Send it. I highly recommend if you want to just send a quick, so I send 2 emails and I send a handwritten thank you note. The first email is just, we had an amazing time at your wedding. You guys are the freaking best. Have the best time on your honeymoon. Wanted to let you know about your deposit because I like to underpromise and overdeliver. In our contract, it says we'll return it within 2 weeks after the wedding, but I actually send all deposits back for the weekend on Monday. They don't know that. That's just an underpromise and an overdeliver. Then 2 weeks later, because now they're back from their honeymoon, that's key, right? And they're back in their inbox. They're back at work. Then I send the thank you. You're amazing. Had the best time. Did you get your deposit back? Want to make sure. I know that they did, right? Ask for a review if it's appropriate. If the wedding didn't go well, probably not a great time to ask for a review. Then I send a handwritten thank you note somewhere between that time. That's up to you. You can send it so that when they return from their honeymoon, they have fun mail in their mailbox, or you can choose to send it when you know that they're probably going to be back. That's relative. You may not know their honeymoon plans. We usually do because we like to get to know our couples, but it's totally up to you. And then for you as the business owner on the admin side of offboarding your client is this. You have got to archive those files, create white space in your CRM. And then if you have any paper files, I have the CRM file, of course, I archive it. I mark it as a past job, close out all of their invoices if they're not already. And then I also archive their paper folder. I have a paper folder. It has their final walkthrough checklist. It has some copies of their contracts and things of that nature and important wedding day stuff. And then I archive that in my file cabinet in a special folder. So create white space in your life, have space for all of that stuff, and complete the offboarding process from the client side and from the admin side.
Love it. So good. Quick question. As a part of your offboarding, I'm just curious here, do you have maybe like a scheduled email or part of your workflow to where you are requesting a sneak peek or a gallery from the photographer?
Yes. Okay. I'm glad you said that. So the first email that I send, because just in case I can't get to deposits on Monday, like for any reason, that is not an automated email. That really just quick, hey, your deposit's in the mail or it's being refunded. That's not an automated email. But my 2 week after the wedding email, where I again say how much fun we had, ask for the review, et cetera, that's automated through Dubsado. That's a workflow because that happens for everyone. And then 2.5 weeks after the wedding, like between 2 and 3 weeks after the wedding, I'll have an email that goes to photographers that says, hey, do you have any pictures? Because we're obsessed.
Yeah.
Sometimes one thing I will say here though, is I will pop that workflow if I don't know the photographer. If I do know the photographer and we have a good relationship, sometimes I might just send them a video DM through Instagram.
Yeah.
Because I want to keep those
great.
relationships and say, hey girl.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. Also, just to give a different perspective here, I feel like I need to give this permission. It's okay. It is okay if you're a venue owner and you host a wedding that was simply to pay the bills. And what I mean by that is you accepted this bride and maybe it was like during your pre-construction rates, right? Like you're a new venue, you were under construction, and you're just trying to get bookings so that you can turn in that report to your investor, right? And show that, hey, I'm actually doing good over here. I'm on track. Sometimes those brides, more times than not, honestly, are not going to be our ideal client. And it's okay if those weddings don't reflect our brand, right? Because eventually we're going to start attracting more and more of our ideal client. And so in those instances, it is okay when that task in the workflow pops up and is like, hey, do you want to send this email to request photos from the photographer? And you hit delete. I'm giving you permission. That is okay.
And we have to do those weddings. We don't know what our ideal client is without doing those weddings. I mean, we can assume, but really, I encourage you not to. Take everything. Like, take what you can so that you can actually decide. And also, you need to pay the bills. Let's be real.
Yeah. We got to keep the lights on here.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And it's not personal. Honestly, at this point, that's not personal. It's just business. And it doesn't mean you weren't very happy to have them at your venue. That's not what it means. You're not a bad person. It just means that's not portfolio work for you.
Correct.
That's all 100%. It means.
100%.
That's very realistic and just logistics.
Yes.
Cool.
I mean, I can pull my prom photo from 2010 and not 2010. Oh man, I wish that I had prom in 2010. I will not give a year reference after that one.
I was going to say, I wish I had prom in 2010. My goodness.
Oh man. But you know what I mean? Like,
That's
all look back at those photos and we're like, oh, bad time.
I mean,
bad time.
I wouldn't put my own wedding in Vista View Events' portfolio. I'm just saying, I wouldn't. Like,
same, girl, same.
Yeah, 2009 was pre-Pinterest, not a good year for Lindsay Roberts. No, I'm kidding. But I would not put my wedding in our portfolio. So there it is. All right. I hope you enjoyed those tips that Lindsay and I shared about how to prepare your wedding venue or just your wedding business for engagement season during your busy wedding season. We're going to be back with you in part 2 to share the rest of our tips. I mentioned at the top of the show, we had quite a few tips. So the interview that Lindsay and I did together went over an hour, but I wanted to share both of them with you. So I decided to split them up into 2 parts. So join us on Thursday. If you're listening to this in real time, that will be Thursday, June 13th, 2019, or look for part 2 in your episode, in your favorite podcast player, if you're listening here in the future. Thanks again for joining us on She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. I appreciate you listening, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.